So I was working on a build video, some kind of trooper mentat build, something ranged that was a catch-all. But I got sidetracked. I started testing a weapon, I tested another weapon. Suddenly I was testing every single weapon. Now the next video I do will probably be the build. It'll be a few builds actually built off the back of this video. This video is going to focus on three things, primarily weapons, but I'm lightly going to touch on armor and skills, how they all kind of interact. I'm going to go through different weapons, the tests I ran, explain how I did it, give you numbers, and give you a TLDR to each weapon, their unique features, all of it. I've just seen too many people making references, whether it's in stream, Discord, Reddit, wherever. People are saying different things, they're absolutely convinced. No one's really sure how things work. A lot of people are incorrect. And to be fair, this game doesn't do a good job explaining any of these stats and how they work together. Beyond all of that, there's a lot of things that don't just work correctly. They just simply are broken, they're bugged. So that's the point of today's video. I will quickly try to go through and give you as much information as possible. I am breaking this video up into sections, so feel free to kind of jump around, but I am trying to outline it in such a way that you should just watch it straight through. I will touch on skills first and explain how skills work, if they're very simple, if they have something broken. Then I'm going to go through weapons and kind of apply what we know about the skills into the weapons. And lastly, I'll just talk about armor and mitigation kind of briefly and my experience and what you should kind of do towards end game. This will, of course, be useful not just for PvP, but for PvE. It's very relevant for both. And then again, I hope to follow this up with a video showing some builds and kind of leveraging this information. So let's jump into it and let's start talking about skills. All right, so I've done a skill reset on my guy. I'm going to show just range weapons right now. I'll come back and do melee stuff second. I'm going to show you what these skills look like, the ones you absolutely should be focusing on and having. You have two passive range damage ones, which completely work. These go up to from 3 per level up to 9%. Okay, you have one here in the trooper tree, which you want to max out. The other one we get over here in the mentat tree, okay? These two passives, they essentially apply to everything, whether it's energy-based weapons, shield-focused weapons like disruptors, everything but rocket launcher. Assume everything but rocket launcher. I'll handle rocket launcher separately at the end. It follows different weird rule sets, so we'll loop back to that one. So we have the two range passives accounted for. The next thing I would point out is weapon-specific ones. Disruptor damage applies to SMGs. This applies to shotguns here. Heavy weapons are captured all in that one. And then over here, we're going to have rifles and pistols. No matter what gun you use, it's going to fall in the category of one of these. The ones that are particularly useful, again, depending on what you're doing, but what you should probably be doing is using rifle damage is likely going to be in, and either shotgun or disruptor. The other high skill weapon that is absolutely worth skilling in is pistol damage. The only one that really isn't is heavy weapons, and frankly, you're not skilling in all of these things. You're mainly going to prioritize one or two of them, usually at best. Maybe three if you are just like a pure shooter build and you have really no melee. But all in all these skills function the same way. They will give you up to 15% more damage. So a lot of these are must-have. Frankly, you need one for shield breaking, and outside of that, I recommend doing rifle, which is going to be tied to a triple shot rifle that you will use to finish everything. Generally, you're either breaking shields with Disruptor Pistol here or the SMG. If you are a pure shooter build, you are leveraging one of these two very likely. All right, so all these passives function additively. So now we have two range passives plus whatever weapon specific one you pick up. So you're now at 33% if you've maxed all those. Up next, which I would say you definitely want for every range build, is a headshot damage passive. This will max out at 15%. This is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to do 15% more damage to headshots. This only applies when their shields are down. You're not going to do more damage to shielded targets if you hit them in the head with this passive. Doesn't work that way. Additionally, it's also worth noting, this does not work with shotguns. It technically works with drill shots, though that won't come into play, but I more so mean scatterguns, okay? Things like a perforator, any kind of shotgun. You will get a headshot notification. It lights up red there like it is doing a headshot, but it's in fact not going to do boosted damage. So aim for the body really when you're using a shotgun. Reason being is we're going to use center of mass. So center of mass is a technique, and I consider it to be a must-have for range skills. This is in the trooper tree. When this is maxed, it's going to look something like this, but I might just use what they have on the PTS right now, which looks like this, okay? The real difference here isn't much, except this headshot damage is now going to be minus 25% instead of minus 15% right now. Basically, they're going to punish you more for headshots on this. Still worth using because it's going to increase not just the body damage 20%, which is like, okay, that's not really why we're using it. We're mainly using it because of shield damage. It breaks shields faster, and it's one of the only skills or techniques that helps increase damage against shields. Shields are a pain in the ass. Once shields are down, it's pretty easy to kill our target. Now, it also says it does 20% blade damage. Currently on live, this isn't really true. I'll sum it up like this shortly. On slow blade attacks, it does about 5% extra damage, if that, maybe less. On normal light and heavy attacks with melee, it does like 14% increased damage. I don't understand the numbers, but that's how it works. In PvP and even in PvE, you're mainly focusing on slow blade attacks. And again, it's doing less than 5% extra damage. It's essentially not going to help you much. And if you're pure melee, you're not really breaking shields. If you're some kind of mix build where you're still using a Disruptor Pistol or Disruptor SMG, then this skill is very good to have. Last thing to know with center of mass is obviously you don't want to shoot at the head, but this matters even when their shields are up, okay? You will not get the bonus of center of mass if you're shooting at their head. So get in the habit of aiming at the body with center of mass, unless their shields are down and you're using a triple shot to like finish a target off. Otherwise, always aim at the body pretty much. Next up, Death from Above, another technique. I'm gonna close out necessary techniques. Death from Above is another trooper skill. This is going to add a potential 20% damage boost. The same as center of mass when maxed, 20%, 20%. Together these can add another 40% through techniques. So this is great to have when we get this maxed out. The way this works is you have to be suspended, so it's when you're actively using the belt. So if you're falling or just Shigiwire, you'll see the buff at the bottom right is not active. It's only active when you're holding spacebar. So you can get really good with a full suspensor belt, which is what a lot of people use by just kind of killing the momentum like this and using it. And do that, you just come, when you're at like the top, when you're at the peak of a jump, you pretty much have to hit spacebar like quarter second after it. And you can almost like slow suspend like this. Alternatively, if you just want to use it in PvE and have a good damage boost that's reliable, because that's technically what it is, you can also just use this reactive one. This doesn't mess with your aim too. Okay, so you can see the cursor, how easily it tightens up, and you could be highly accurate with this all the same. Okay, it kind of feels a little weird, it's kind of goofy, but when we talk about just delivering damage and like potential high uptime, this is a very good skill, Death from Above, or technique in this case. So don't sleep on Death from Above if you are, again, like a pure shooter and you're looking for high-end damage. This is potentially one of the skills I put in there. Death from Above, Center of Mass, the non-actives, okay? These two techniques are like really reliable if you get pretty good at trooper gameplay. Which brings me to our active skill, which is really just this guy up here, Energy Capsule. So let's jump up there. Energy Capsule will boost your damage by 35% range damage. This is a lot of damage. You can also reduce this along with other things with Battle Harden, making the uptime on this pretty high. Now, Energy Capsule is just like a short buff. It's got an activation time right there. And once it's up, you're cutting loose. This will boost all damage on pretty much everything, again, except the rocket launcher. But like even shotguns, this boosts your damage on shields. Same as Death from Above, same as Center of Mass. These three working together are great for breaking shields, whether using Disruptor Pistol or Disruptor SMG. It's why I list these three in a row and I talk about them together. Every test I did on every weapon included all three of these skills to see how they all work together. So if we put together the first two range passes we discussed plus the special weapon, that gives you 33% extra damage. Put these two techniques together and the active skill, and you have an additional 75%. Put them all together and we are at 103% extra damage. So if you would shoot somebody for 100 damage, you're hitting them now for 200 damage. Or we could apply it to something like the Regis Disruptor Pistol which is going to hit a shield for 382 shield damage. But with all that stuff put up together, it's going to hit for something like 775 shield damage, which is instantly going to knock shields off. That's why this stuff's important. All right, next up, I'm going to just cover other potential passives or techniques that you should or shouldn't use. Manipulate Instability is not a melee-only booster. This can do up to 20%. The problem with this skill is it does not boost any damage against shields. So if a target's shielded, it doesn't matter. When their shields are broken, they're pretty easy to just shoot up and kill at that point. As you've noticed, that's kind of where I'm funneling our efforts, is at breaking shields. The only place I could put this is maybe for rocket spam builds, but for the most part, don't worry about this skill. It technically works, but it's irrelevant in your case. Marksman is a mentat technique. This seems pretty cool. 20% extra head damage and only minus 3% body damage. What's the problem here? Why is it not on my list? Well, it doesn't really do 20% damage. That's one of the problems with it. In all my tests, I think it does about 14% extra damage. Aside from that, I'm not really heavily focused on headshot stuff. Again, this doesn't apply to shields. This does not help me break enemy shields. Shields are what we're really concerned about. We break through shields. The rest is pretty easy work with either the Trippleshot, shotgun, and the other passives, which we'll get to when we jump into weapons testing. All right, next up is a passive, Assassin Shot. At first glance, you just see range damage, 5%, 10, 15. This looks like a no-brainer. This looks like another range damage like these other skills we have. Wrong. You have to read the description. You deal additional damage to your enemies when shooting them in the back. This only deals damage to the back of a target. And if you're wondering what that is, in my testing, it seems to be pretty much everything on the back 180 degrees of somebody. So if I was to draw that and represent that a bit better, it would be like everything from this 180 degree arc. If I shoot from anywhere here and hit this guy, then we're good. Like, that will kick in. Why do I not care about this? If I'm having to shoot a dude in the back, I'm probably winning the fight anyway, and I don't think I really need this. You can put like a point into it, but you're going to be strapped on points as it is anyway. There's other good things to put it into, so for the most part, don't worry about this passive. Next up, I have Exploit Weakness. Now this one is actually not bad, and in certain cases, I would use this. Maybe if you're kind of what I would call a close-range trooper or like a hybrid mix, it's kind of how I like to play. Especially in team play. Exploit Weakness, let's pick this skill up and kind of show it because I don't see this one much. In team play especially, it's very good, but let's look at it. This will increase damage by 30%. It lasts 10 seconds, and basically, in short, how this works is it's going to put a marker on our target. So once the target is marked, he will have a debuff that for 10 seconds, anyone shooting there, you'll get 30% amped damage. That is a significant boost. It's a lot of damage, and the thing is, other people can also shoot it. You just have to look for it and see it. So right now it would be his arm. And if I shoot there, 30% damage boost. This is pretty nice. It's good for, I think, SMG and shotgun mix. If you're in tight center of mass, like non-headshot type build, this is pretty good skill. The last thing I'll mention with this skill is if you're in an active firefight with somebody, because if I shoot somebody and they have their shield up, it's not proccing the skill, like it's not activating. Now, if we're trading fire and their shield drops and I hit them in between, as I would again with like an SMG build, it's marked. And if I shoot it now, while like, even though it's underneath the shield, you still get the damage boost. I'm sure that's not intended. I'm sure it's another bug that they need to fix, but that's another reason this is actually really good with these SMG builds. Is if somebody's trying to trade fire and you are, again, one of these close range, like brawler type builds, you can get a significant jump on them using this, or just, again, just applying it, because it's going to be easy to apply it rapidly firing. If their shield drops for any moment, that thing's going up. If other people are aware to shoot it, they all get a damage boost. So overall, it's a pretty nice technique. I'm going to follow that one up as well with this skill. It's called Shield Overcharge. Functions almost the same way, except it's not a technique, it's a passive. You should absolutely have this skill, okay? This is on your must-have list. I didn't put it in all my other test things because the thing with Shield Overcharge is it only works when you're in a Prescience state. But if you are a range build, you want to have Shield Overcharge, especially if you're using an SMG. A little less if you're using a pistol, but the way shield overcharge works is functionally the same as what we just saw. It just works against the shield. So if I hit a target, again, you have to be spiced up for this. So if I now hit this target, it's going to light up here. I'm going to do bonus damage there. Okay, and it's going to help me break shields. That's the point of it. It does what Exploit Weakness does, except it does it to shields. This thing will also stack with the other one too, but they're in different places. That one overwrites it. So either way, you're getting one of the bonuses. This one you definitely want to take, Shield Overcharge. It's the same thing. It's just meant for shield breaking. It's really, really underrated, really good. 100% must have with SMG builds. And when you're in an SMG build spiced up, this thing becomes pretty juiced. While we're in the skills section, I will quickly mention this one skill, which is bugged. Attractor Field. I wouldn't recommend using this for PvE. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it for the most part. Kind of anywhere unless you're really headhunting targets. You can amp damage, essentially. What's going on here with Attractor Field, if you're not aware of this skill, the whole point of it is you can hit a target, and then if you shoot anywhere in this bubble, it's going to make sure it kind of hooks in, hones in, and hits the target, right? Okay, so what's wrong with it? Well, it shouldn't boost damage, but if you use Center of Mass, which will boost your damage by 20%, this will boost it an additional varied results, but like 26% or something. A little different results with different weapons, I feel like. I only tried it with a few just to see if it was a one-off. It's not. It's just kind of bugged, but it's a huge boost. It's almost as much damage as like energy capsules, so it really catapults damage up. But in PvE, I wouldn't recommend it because I would just use gravity grenades or gravity mines. They're more effective for damaging, but that's a whole nother story. Just an FYI, with Attractor Field, it is bugged, and it boosts damage with Center of Mass by a huge amount, so just so you're aware. I think that pretty much covers the active skills. Anything that benefits or doesn't benefit, range. Maybe worth mentioning, Precise Parry can lower the damage mitigation of people. But, I mean, that's pretty much it. Everything is really found in Trooper or in the Mentat tree. Lastly, I'll say, actually, when you're spiced up, I've tested, you do a flat 20% boost damage, okay? So your skills cool down at half the speed. People are like, yeah, you get boosted damage. What is that boost? It is exactly 20%. I've tested it out. That works on shields, and it works on when targets do not have shields. So Prescience state is, just another flat 20% you can add in if you're ever trying to math all this stuff. All right, with all the skills kind of explained and out of the way, I'm going to jump into weapons. I'm going to go category by category and explain pros, cons. Some will take a little longer than others. First and most importantly, I'm going to jump into the 5-finger Trippleshot. All right, the 5-finger Trippleshot I'm starting with because it's pretty much the best ranged weapon in the game. It is a sniper rifle variant, okay? It's a scopeless one. Let's get the sniper rifle one out of the way first. This is the other unique sniper rifle. This is a scoped one, okay? You have Thufir's Best at Mark 5 and Dune Watcher at Mark 6. What is the real use of these? Good for PvE. They can poison somebody in one shot through their shields. I'll explain the damage in a second. We'll come back to poisons. But for PvE, they're good, but like in deep desert, it's too tight once you're inside facilities to really use sniper rifles. I would just be using the Trippleshot at this point, which is a scopeless one. Why is this good? It shoots really quick. It's very accurate. It has a poison. It has really good damage. It doesn't really have much recoil, and it reloads really fast. It literally has all those pros. It's a lot of pros, okay? It shoots really quick. You just reload. It's like an M1, dude. You're just rapid firing this thing. Additionally, all the passives that we just went through and discussed, they all work for it. Everything works beautifully for this. It's a very high DPS weapon. The only place it loses to other weapons is against a shotgun in short range. That's it. And even if you're pretty tight range and you're still hitting headshots and stuff, it keeps up pretty well. But, the real added benefit is if you're a real trooper flying around, you're just out there, you're gunning from every range. Beyond that, even if you're not just a pure range guy, the poison's very effective. And let's jump into the poison now. So there are two categories of poisons. You have Halleck's Pick poison, which is the rapier, the melee weapon. That poison shares the same poison properties as everything in the Mentat tree. All these poisons, they all share the same category. Now, the Trippleshot and the Dune Watcher, the rifle poisons, these are different. They are completely separate cooldown. You could have both of those poisons up at the same time. Now, the other thing that's great about the rifle poison is it's fast acting. The Mentat poisons and stuff, they take a while. They take like 50 seconds. Halleck's Pick takes like 50 seconds. They're very long poisons that can just be like, you can go and apply a bandage, and once you bandage, like the poison comes off. What's great about these is they're very fast acting. The Trippleshot and the Dune Watcher, they do a 10-second poison. So they do about 3 to 4 damage per second. The Mark V does about like 32 damage, I want to say, and the Mark VI is like 38 to 40 damage, something like that. So you do get a bit of a boost going from one grade to the other, but there's no other way to really boost that poison damage per second. The only other thing to mention is it can be applied in one shot if a target's shields are down. So no shields up, that poison's instantly kicking in. If you do have shields up like he does, it's going to take me 2 shots to apply the poison. So it's a very strong harass weapon through shields. This is why this weapon should be in literally every single build. Even if you're a melee build, you should be whipping this out to just 2-tap somebody and apply pressure. Constantly apply pressure. That's why I would grade this weapon as an S grade weapon, and it really should be on everybody's bar. All right, moving on. We're going to jump into pistols now. We have 2 pistol variants. All right, the default pistol sucks. One of the variants is just kind of like the default pistol. I have one of them, it's called Cope. I've never seen the Mark VI. I don't think it's ever dropped or in the game yet. Doesn't really matter. I wouldn't really recommend this one. It does good damage. Let's show it. It does good damage, but it's not good against shields. It's meant to hit targets whose shields are down. So why don't we use the Trippleshot at that point? It's a good question. We should use the Trippleshot. It's better in most ways, mainly because this thing has a hell of a kick. If you look at it, it's also got a pretty long reload. You look at that. I mean, the Trippleshot reloads faster than this thing. This only does more damage if you headshot. It doesn't have the poison that the Trippleshot has. So we can easily just say this variant isn't really useful. The reason we're talking about pistol second is because it is integral to the trooper gameplay with the Disruptor pistol. This is the charged version, and this is the one that's used against shields. Now, this is probably the highest skill cap weapon in the game. I don't even think it's close. I'll show some footage of this, but basically you can be flying around a lot with this and kind of almost take on any amount of people, just kind of leapfrogging around and looking for shots with this thing. It does maintain its accuracy, it does have long range, and it benefits from a lot of the things we were talking about. Primarily energy capsule, it's got center of mass, and it also has death from above. All these things apply to it and let us hit really strong shields. This is, again, the highest skill cap, I'd say, the ultimate kind of trooper gameplay. But even for PvE, if you just want to smack down shields, look no further than the Disruptor. All right, since we're on disruptors, I'm going to jump right to SMGs. SMGs all work the same. Okay, the default one, and then we have 2 different uniques. What is the difference? The numbers are quite different, but in reality, there is a heavy dart version and there is a light dart version. Okay, these are the Mark Vs. This is the light dart version, and this is the heavy dart version. What you'll see when you look at these is the damage per shot's quite different. The heavy dart one does quite a bit more, and it says it has a larger clip size. This is all technically true, so what are we missing here? It has a higher magazine, it does more damage per shot, it says it's a bit slower, but if you actually use it, what you'll notice is it shoots 2 darts per shot. Okay, so does that mean it's doing double that damage? No, it doesn't. It's using 2 darts to achieve what they call 46 damage. And it is shooting slower than this, which is the light dart version, okay? This one is, in fact, shooting faster. The TLDR here, after doing a bunch of testing with all this and timing things, is they all break shields at a pretty similar amount. Fully juiced with all the things like Energy Capsule, Death from Above, Center of Mass, which all apply to this again. And again, I would recommend even Exploit Weakness maybe being in your kit for this, and then the spiced version skill, which I always forget, Shield Overcharge. Those are both options I would also keep in, especially if you're using SMGs. Ultimately, I was breaking shields just over 2 seconds, and it wasn't much different even with a dart for every man. Was it faster? Yes, significantly, not too much. We're talking like a quarter to a half a second. I'll put numbers on screen, but ultimately you can kind of get away with any of the disruptors. The heavy one, despite saying it has a magazine size of 52, it's technically like 26. It's technically half because it fires 2 shots per second or per round. When there is a Mark 6 version of this, it will probably be the best and highest performing one. However, it feels like the light dart version can break the shield and still have the most amount of rounds left over. I don't know if that really makes sense to you guys, but overall, these all fulfill the same function. A higher mark version is better. The way they would cascade is the best would be the Mark 6 dart for every man, then the heavy dart Peters, and then the other one. When there eventually is a Mark 6 heavy disruptor that ever comes out, then that would be your best option to go to. But they're all pretty close. Other than that, as far as using SMGs, I will probably do that in a different video, the build video. But a lot of people use this, you know, with Weirding Step to close in on their target and just kind of cut loose on them. You compare this either with Gravity Mine or Crippling Strike. I'll go over that in another video, but this is kind of just explaining what this weapon does, what works with it. Just like the Disruptor Pistol, I would pretty much mark this as an A-grade weapon. The Disruptor Pistol is kind of your ranged option for people that really want to play like that 20 plus meters, I'm shooting from range gameplay. This is for I get in close and personal type, and they're both excellent at breaking shields. One other thing I almost forgot is it does have a short range, okay? Effective range, 10 meters. This can kind of be misleading to some people, so be aware. Even though it looks like I'm getting hit right now, turns out I'm not getting hit. As you'll notice, my shield isn't taking damage, right? It should be, but, you know, I'm just not in range, okay? There is a range. That's 10 meters. There's a lot of things that work like this. Shotgun's the same. If you're not in range, it looks like it's hitting, but it's actually not. Always constantly move close with SMGs and shotguns. Constantly close your range, close your distance while you're using them. They might not work if you're not closing that distance. All right, now we're moving on to shotguns. We have 2 different kinds of unique shotguns, and they both function similar to the standard shotgun. The differences are they both do more damage in different ways. Now, we have one that bleeds and one that burns. The one that bleeds says it has a 48 clip size, and the one that burns says it has a 36. However, this one that has a bigger clip size gets 4 shots because it consumes 12 darts per shot, okay? So this guy, the Perforator, is consuming 12 shots. Okay, it's a lot. Now this guy with a smaller clip size actually gets to shoot 6 times because it only consumes 6 darts per shot. Okay, that's the first difference. So with the fire one, we get to do 6 shots. With this one, we get 4. Now this one does do more damage because it's shooting twice the amount of darts essentially. The other thing is it has a bleed, and the bleed is very effective. Now here's the thing with bleed. The bleed does not go through shield. I could shoot this guy with his shields up 15 times or whatever, nothing. He's never going to bleed. However, with the fire one, I can shoot him and it takes 4 shots to set him ablaze. Oh, maybe 3. Usually it's 4 for me. But here's the interesting thing with burning. It's terrible, okay? It actually shouldn't be, but it's modified now and mitigated by armor. I was trying to figure out why fire damage was so bad. There is like Syndicate armor, for example, which or the Forge armor set. These mitigate fire and they mitigate burn damage, right? These do work too. If you have a full set of this or the Syndicate armor, it'll give you 40% resistance. You'll take 40% less poison and fire damage. That's what they do, the mitigation sets. However, these dots should be independent of armor. Poison is. Poison's working correctly. Fire isn't. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think it always worked like this, but it is working this way. Bleed's the same way. Bleed is like poison. It doesn't care what your armor is. None of these dots should not care what your armor is. But fire, like this burn will do like 10 damage over like 5 seconds, right? It's kind of crap. If you take all your armor off though and burn a guy, it'll do like 70 damage, right? Bleed, poison, they don't care. They don't care if you're naked or you have the best armor in the game. So overall, my point is this: the fire one isn't great. It burns, but it burns a little bit. Overall, if I have to pick between these two, the Perforator or Syndicate Impaler's the Mark V version, the bleed one, for me is better. The only potential exception I will give you is shotguns are good to be used as staggering weapons. I use these a lot as a melee player. You can shoot and set a player off balance. See how it's constantly staggering them back? Okay, this opens people up to be slow blade attacked, all right? If I do this and come in, I can slow blade attack. So for the close range brawler SMG shotgun, this is kind of a style I enjoy playing. It's a mix and match of everything. You throw a lot of stuff at people. However, I still go to the Perforator. Reason being, the bleed is very strong. It does 44 damage, and it does it in about 5 seconds, okay? So that's like 8 damage per second or something. The bleed is extremely effective. It only works when their shields are down, though. So if you get a target, his shields come down, you switch to the Perforator, it's like 2 shots and he's going down, okay? The Perforator is very powerful. And the bleed also carries over to downed targets. So targets that take a knee and are rezzing, they may take 1 less shot because that bleed's really cooking them. The bleed's very effective. It way outclasses the burn, but functionally these weapons aren't too far off. Their base damage will hit in similar ranges. Like on a low armor, I have this guy clocking in doing 76 damage, whereas this one is doing 70. That's before any passives and stuff. That's not bad, okay? Like, I mean, the gap's not so great between them that I'm like, oh, you have to use the Perforator, you're doing half the damage. No, you're doing 10% difference about between these two. So for what they do as shotguns, they're pretty close. Like, if you can't get your hands on this, okay, like you can use the fire shotgun. And the fire shotgun's a little more forgiving, that you get 6 shots, and this one you only get 4 before you need to reload. So if you're using it as a stagger tool, you technically could get maybe 6 staggers. It doesn't always 100% stagger as well, but even when people skill into stagger resist, it is worth mentioning, as I did test stagger resist with a lot of weapons, especially the rocket launcher. But if you get stagger resistance, like solid stance, there is the Bene Gesserit Prana Bindu stability. If you pair those two together, and even with Litany Against Fear, you're still not resisting really the stagger from this shotgun. Shotgun's a very effective stagger tool. Lastly, as mentioned earlier, you cannot headshot with shotguns, okay? You will get a reticle, like a red thing here, is like, hey, you headshot. It's not a headshot. Never, like, you're using center of mass likely with the shotgun, so as a result, never aim for the head, okay? Even when their shields are down, shoot at the body if you're using a shotgun. Always aim at the body. If you shoot at the head and you have center of mass, you're just taking damage away from yourself again. So aim for the body. Headshots don't do anything. They don't boost your damage at all. They can only lower it with center of mass. Everything else works with it though, okay? All the range passives work with shotgun. Death from above will work with shotgun. All the other passives are functional, so make use of them. The shotgun is a vicious weapon. It beats out the Trippleshot in close range on damage and its ability to stagger people. So in tight spaces, you do want to use this. It is the king of short range weapons. All right, while we're on the topic of shotguns, I will cover drill shots rather quickly. Drill shots, we have 2 different versions. I love these weapons leveling up against mobs, but I don't find them to be great. We have the single burst one, which shoots 4 rounds individually each, right? Then we have the double shot one. For PvE, I guess these aren't bad. And people use them in PvP a bit, but honestly, it's more of a good tool for panicking people that don't manage their stam well, I guess. If you're in heavy armor, you might as well just eat the shot. Like I just got shot by this weapon. This is the Mark 6, the top tier one. And me taking that shot from somebody that has all the relevant range upgrades does 16 damage through the shield. So it's not much damage. And it's like at that point, if somebody is shooting me with this, I'm just going to pull out a triple shot or a shotgun and I'm just going to return fire. I'm going to say, go ahead, use the drill shot. I'll absorb a few. It does stagger people, right? Like that's the thing about it, is it's going to cause a stagger, but like, okay, if I'm in a firefight with somebody, just pull out a triple shot and trade with them and it's no contest. You'll absolutely blow them away. They're not breaking your shield. They're just trying to get you to burn your stamina. So that's kind of it. If it's used in conjunction, like you're getting XV1 and you're like crippling striked and stuff, like, you know, you can burn out your stam really quick. It can force people to panic. Just like it's okay to eat the drill shot is my point, especially if you're in heavy armor. If you're in light armor, you get more dodges and you can just dodge them out as needed too, and then just avoid the damage altogether. So overall, I'm not really impressed with these. They don't do great damage. I don't know what else to mention on them. A lot of the things all work on them. Same thing. Don't try to headshot somebody if you're using center of mass. You actually can't get headshots if their shield's up, but if their shield's down, you can headshot them. What else is worth noting? Energy Capsule does not work if their shields are up as well. You're not going to do boosted damage. If their shields are down, you will do boosted damage, but you're not using a drill shot if their shields are down. So overall, this weapon is kind of cool when you're leveling up, and it's got a purpose, it's got a place, but it is way outclassed by just directly investing in skills and breaking shields. That's the TLDR on drill shots. I'm not going to hate people for using it, but it's really good at like getting players to panic in PvP, I would say. And as far as PvE goes, there are better ways to deal with things, and that better way is using the previous listed weapons, break shields, and then kill health bars. One last bit of knowledge which we will touch on in Rocket Launcher, same applies here as, again, this is used a lot to stagger people, is that you can avoid that stagger, okay? How do you do that? Well, go into your skills, and you're going to have to throw in Prana Bindu Stability. You're going to want to max this out. This is going to give 20% poise resist in conjunction with Solid Stance, the passive. This will give you 29% poise resist, and it's enough to resist this. Because if you're in heavy armor and you don't want to burn stamina dodging, which as I said, I would recommend that a lot, then this is a good option. You can just tank it. It does kind of minimal damage at that point if you have real good armor. So just tank it. Now, if you get hit with the double shot one, this one still will stagger, okay? Which means its stagger rating is just higher. But for the most part, people use these. I see them used mainly when people outnumber folks and they try to just like get them to use, you know, they use it so that they have to spam out their stamina dodging. So this is a good way if you're in one of those servers where you're being run down like 3v1. Stagger resist is going to be good for this and for our next section. All right, if you finally made it this far, you've made it to Rocket Launcher, okay? This one's the most fun. I've had to go back and test this at least a couple times because this thing breaks all of the rules. So I'm going to be showcasing the Ancient Way. The normal rocket launcher just shoots a rocket, just shoots it straight. The Ancient Way can lock on things, and due to that, I put it up in S grade. It also does more damage than the normal rocket launcher, but it can lock on, you know, ornithopters, but it can also lock on players and hit players and stagger them out of the sky. Before we get deeper, and before I forget, I should remind you, you can resist the stagger off rockets, okay? You need a certain amount of poise resistance. Now, if you take the max level of this at 20% and you pair it with Solid Stance to give you 29%, you will resist rocket stagger and grenades. They won't stagger you anymore. It doesn't matter if you get hit by 5 rockets at the same time, like you're good. All right. The only other stagger resist is in Litany Against Fear. There's a bunch here as well that can be applied, but you need at least that much and no less. Okay. If you try to do a max level technique, and only 2 levels of this at 26%, you'll still get staggered. 29, you're good. No stagger. So it's worth pointing that out because one of the things that rocket launcher's good at is staggering. Now, I've had so many people engage me in PvP with rocket launchers and they just whip this shit out and they start shooting me in a close range fight and they don't really know what they're doing because they usually just die right after. There are places to use this and there's definitely effective situations to be using this in. It's a great AoE stagger tool. It's great at, like, by itself, it will not tear shields down. By the time you shoot somebody, he's going to have time to regenerate all of that shield damage by the time I hit him again, right? I'm not slowly going to tear this guy's shields apart just by shooting rockets alone. It just won't happen, okay? So you want to know how you're using this. Now, when we talk about rocket damage and they have shields up, it does chip damage, okay? And I'm going to put that stuff on screen, and I'm going to try to just walk through and explain the other stuff. This thing doesn't follow the rules of any of the other things that we've talked about. So we're going to start from the base with it. What does work with it is center of mass. Center of mass works at breaking its shields. Once the player's shields are down, center of mass doesn't work anymore. It won't help us in doing more damage to their health bar, but it will help us in damaging their shields, okay? All right. All ranged passives do not work. They don't help anywhere at all with anything. Energy Capsule doesn't work anywhere with anything. Death from above doesn't work anywhere with anything. Heavy weapons damage functions the same way as center of mass does. That's to say, this will help me break the player's shield. I will do more shield damage and break his shields faster. But once his shields are down, I'm not doing any more. Now, here's the interesting part, is both of these heavy weapons and center of mass, they will do additional chip damage. And what I describe as chip damage, let's say I shoot this rocket and it does 100 damage to his shield, it's going to still do damage through the shield. This is how explosives work. So rockets, grenades, they all damage you through the shield while also doing damage to your shield. And I just call it chip damage. You call it whatever you want. But like, basically it does small amounts of extra damage. Now that is boosted by center of mass and by heavy weapons. Outside of that, like, everything else is out. Nothing else boosts the damage. Except we also have Spice Prescience. That does help boost damage as well. All right, that's 20% as well. And that will help us break shields also. So all in all, we can get, with our skills, to do additional shield damage. I can get 15 in conjunction with this of 20. That gives me an extra 35. It's also worth mentioning, Manipulate Instability does technically work, but it doesn't work like everything else where it does damage to the shields. It only works at doing damage to their health bar after their shields are broken, not assisting with chip. It's all very backwards. Either way, I wouldn't even worry about putting on Manipulate Instability unless you're doing a Rocket Man build, which I'm pretty much going to cover when I do the build video, but it kind of functions in a way with Spice, all right? You just kind of want to spice up, give you a short look at what it looks like. There's a couple ways. You could also go Assault Seeker. There's a combination. I'm not going to level these skills all the way up. I'm not even going to shoot the person because I will instantly kill if I do that, and I'm not interested in it. But, you know, when you're spiced up with reflexive reload, one of the cool things about like a rocket build, and again, a lot of people don't get all that resistance to staggering like I was describing. So this is very effective in PvE too, for clearing waves. You shoot a rocket, you throw, you shoot, you throw, you shoot, you throw. You know, it's a rapid fire of things. Ultimately too, with this build, I've used it in PvE. You can just kind of pull everything in and knock their shields out, and it's all pretty cool. You can also just assault secret, and it's just a ton of concussion damage. Rockets are really busted. They're really kind of goofy. The other thing that's interesting is damage per shot lists at 919, which is a really big number. Like, we could do a quick test on this guy, and in doing a blast like that, it does 50 damage, whereas using the shell burster to the chest is going to be 70 damage. Okay, basically the shotgun's doing more, but if we look at the damage on this, like this one's 450 and this one's over 900, so it's like twice as much. And that guy's in syndicate armor, so he doesn't have any, he just has armor, right? He doesn't have any dart resist, he doesn't have any concussion resistance, yet he's still taking more damage from something that's listed as doing half. All in all, like, the Ancient Way is only mitigated, just rockets, they're only mitigated by armor value and concussion. A combination of that, plus any flat DR that you can achieve and throw in, but that's it. And beyond that, like, these numbers, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but they don't really mean much. I tested shooting ornithopter rockets, which list in at something lower. Like, I used the Scout ornithopter rockets. I think they list at like 200 or 300 damage or something, and they're doing a significantly higher amount, right? The buggy, for example, the buggy will do over 200 damage on its rocket. All in all, this is what I'm trying to say. You have rocket damage on the vehicles and you have rocket damage on handheld rockets. The numbers are like, they don't even relate to each other. They might as well be smiley faces, like a sad face or a happy face. I don't know what they mean. You can one-shot people with a buggy that has like 500 damage, whereas this thing says 900 and it's doing 50, right? It doesn't really compute. I don't know what's going on with that. This is like, it's something that drives me nuts because I was going to do a video on it and the math was so borked. I kind of got triggered on it. It's part of the problem why combined arms doesn't really work in this game is if there's a QA team in the game, like Mini Rant, sorry, if there's a QA team, they have not like tested rocket damage at all. They have no idea. They have no idea what it should look like, how the damage works. It just doesn't really make sense. And it's super unfortunate because when it comes to ground combat, there's a lot of cool shit happening. There's a lot of cool stuff people don't even know about. The reason I'm making this video. There's a lot of stuff people don't know about. They don't even play with stuff because they never get there because they just get shot with rockets all day. All right, rant over. Let's move on. The Ancient Way, really cool weapon. It's great for just getting rid of vehicles with the lock-on ability, but it is very effective at staggering, but it's just a supplemental weapon unless you're a full Rocket Man build. Overall though, looping back, the TLDR is like heavy weapon damage isn't really worth it. Unless you're like 100% Rocket Man build, like I was showing earlier. That's it. That is it. Like, this is actually not worth taking because it's not helping do anything else. It's not helping do damage to anything else. The only other things that boost on here, like Lasgun, Flamethrower, Vulcan, I don't give a damn. I don't need this stuff. It's a waste of points. Take Center of Mass because you always use Center of Mass because Center of Mass applies to goddamn everything. It's overused. So that's kind of the only thing that really matters. So what's cool, again, like the short version, you can use this on any build, whether you're melee, far range, tight range, whatever. What is it? It's another stagger in my arsenal. It's something that can get rid of vehicles. If you have the Ancient Way, it's great for getting rid of vehicles, but other than that, it's, you know, a good stagger thing I can just use. I can chuck it in to like stagger somebody, or if there's a group of people, I'll stagger 3 of them, right? It's cool for that, right? But don't use it as something where you're going to defeat someone and delete their health bar. Just pull out the Trippleshot, baby, or the shotgun, all right? That's how you deal with that. All right, that pretty much covers most of the weapons that I would say you would take seriously. I am going to shoot through some other weapons and just touch on them lightly, I suppose. I tried out the plasma cannon. It actually has really high numbers. You know, 113 damage per shot is a lot. High rate of fire. This is like the Vulcans. And if you're unfamiliar with the Vulcans because they're a terrible weapon, this is the Vulcan. It's pretty much the chain gun, all right? We've all wanted to live the chain gun experience and just cut loose with this thing. Overall, with my tests with it, putting it with completely max skills, I mean, it works with everything, right? It works with energy capsule, it works with all the stuff. It can be pretty impressive if you're just shooting something that's like not moving, like a target dummy, but it's got wind up time and it chews your energy bar, right? Now, the only good thing I can say is that we can use the Mentat skill, right? Which can restore energy to us. So my group members got that put up. And I can infinitely shoot with this. That's cool. That's all nice. The problem is the damage just isn't that good, okay? It turns out to not really be that great. I even tried it in PvE, like fully decked out. I'm like, let's go shred some mobs. And I'm just eating damage, right? It's not staggering things. It's not doing enough damage. It doesn't outshine the other things in any category, right? It's better to just drop like a gravity mine, gravity nade, and use any of the other options, and you will rip shields off faster. Now that thing does 113 damage per shot. Okay. Again, I have like the other Vulcans. This is like the other uniques of the Vulcans. As promised, I will, go through and discuss everything. This thing doesn't even scale correctly. All right, it says 26.4 per shot. All right, and it has a smaller magazine versus the non-special one, which has a larger clip size and only does 20. It does 24.8. The difference is like 1 damage, which when you actually scale things up, is negligible. It probably does the same amount of damage as the unique, the Basher's Command, right? So like, again, it's things like this. It's like, did anybody even look at this and test it? All in all, trash, junk, unfortunate. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the next weapon. All right, we have Flamethrower, the Vaporizer. All right, I said fire damage sucked earlier, but not all fire damage is made equal. This one does decent damage, okay? The Flamethrower, it is weird though. All right, if you just tap the Flamethrower, you can see what it drains. It drains 5 energy, right? And it's very interesting. You actually don't want to do that. If you just tap it, it's going to only apply like 1/8 or 1/4 of the bar on him, right? And that's not effective for what we want. We want this thing to burn a target as quick as possible. So you just have to hold it down, even though if you tap it versus holding it down, it's kind of not different, but it actually factors the burn rate differently. Very strange. The other thing that's absolutely key with this, with the Flamethrower, you can burn people at about like 2 to 4 times faster if you shoot them in the head with the fire, right? Fire to the face is a surefire way to burn somebody. So that's all I can say on this. How much damage does it do? About 50. All right. But remember I told you earlier, this scales off armor. And so that's on like Mark V junk armor. He's got heavy Mark V armor. So like against me, it'll probably do like 40 in Mark 6 armor or something. So is this good? Is this bad? Can I use this? It's not great, okay? Because you have to sit here with your shields down, trying to apply a dot. And again, if you're at this range, it's not super long ranged either, okay? 15 meters, like, man's gonna shotgun you or do something. He's gonna use any weapon on you and put you in trouble. The other thing about it is you actually like have to keep it on the target. It's not effective to like burn 2 targets like this. You would think that, but you're wrong. It doesn't work that way. It also, like that guy over there, if I shoot here, I can't hit him. He will functionally body block. It's not an effective AoE weapon. All right, if I'm a developer at Funcom, I go, okay, let's fix fire damage and let's make this an AoE puff, like kind of like Poison Cloud, make it, fire cloud, so to speak, where the area is getting cooked. The whole area should get cooked. I'd also change what fire does, like maybe it messes up your vision or something, and its partial utility. There's my suggestion, but overall, weapon, not great. Not good in PvE, not good in PvP. Put it in the trash can. Next up I have Lasgun, but I don't think you're ever going to honestly use this as a weapon to like kill people with. You can actually kill people that don't have shields up with it really quickly. It just kind of shakes a little. It moves around on its own. Like right now I'm not moving it at all, but you see the laser, it's like dragging itself around. See how it like slowly jerks to the right? So it does that, but like, I don't know. It could be good for memes, I guess. Like, it does kill people really quick. It burns people down fast. If they don't have a shield up, they go down quick, okay? But I don't think there's any like real great practical use to name otherwise with this. Lasgun's the Lasgun. It's mainly used for base raiding. That's its primary purpose. Because the problem is if you try to shoot somebody if they have a shield up, it emergency venting cannot fire, and now it's locked up. Okay, so that's about it with this. There's nothing crazy about it. You can get this, you know, from the deep desert and stuff. It's definitely a cool weapon to mess around with. It's actually really good at killing people that don't have shields. It kills at a high speed. But I'm not going to go into it much. The Karpov literally outshined in every single category again by the Trippleshot. I'll just say, like, the unique Karpov, it does like a burst fire. You actually see there's the one that does like the pop 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 pop, like it's a triple shot. I didn't even grab it. I don't have it here with me, and I didn't really feel like going and grabbing it. That's all it does. It's not good against shields. It does less damage. It's bad everything compared to the triple shot. So I don't know what to say. It's, you know, it's one of these things where it's like, just give the weapon purpose. Like, make this weapon good here, make that weapon good there. It just needs a rebounce. The other version, the other unique, this one, we have the Salison Vengeance. This one, it actually does AoE bursts. That's about the range where the separation these guys have. In shooting here, it creates this like fire, this AoE effect, you could say, like right around here. So it does like an AoE burst, but it's 5 damage is what it is. So is it great? No. Would I recommend using it? No. It's not worth it. And that's about it, I think. The Maula Pistols in there, get real, okay? Like, also terrible. Other than that, we've covered everything, okay? Like, those are all the real competitive weapons, and you pretty much have your longer range ones, your mid range, and your short range, and you have 2 shield breaker weapons. And then the rocket launcher is your special case unique weapon, okay? Other than that, we have melee weapons, and I'm not going to really go into them in this video. I've covered them in my melee build a little, not to this depth, but, you know, I can say in short, I've been meleeing less, and when I do, I've been trying to use the pulse sword. I honestly haven't got much PvP in the last week, but when I stagger people, the pulse sword has high base damage. If I was like a pure melee build, I probably wouldn't do the sword. I'd probably still go with the rapier. The rapier's nice. It has the poison. The thing is, it's a good tracking tool. Like, honestly, in PvP, I'd probably still just default recommend you towards the rapier. There is the cauterizer, which is a dagger. It applies a burning dot. Now remember, the burning's not great. The burning dagger does about 20 damage. It's similar to the shotgun, the fire shotgun. So the cauterizer's not too great. The rest of the daggers are kind of so-so. This one drains blood. There's one that doesn't drain, it just does stamina. And then we have another pick which also burns shields. Not Halleck's pick, but the new rapier that came out is called Static Needle. This can burn shields. I mean, if I want to burn shields, just use the SMG. You don't really need to melee. But if you really felt compelled to do so, you could do Eye of the Storm in conjunction with Inspiration. And I didn't test it, but if you slapped all those together, you might be able to insta-break. Yeah, you would insta-break shields with that Static Needle for sure. So, I mean, that's kind of it. I think this in full covers weapons. Lastly, I just kind of want to touch and talk briefly about armor. We have heavy armor and we have light armor. We're not going to talk about still suits. They don't really do anything. So, endgame. If you are a shooter build, I'll keep it real simple. You're going full heavy armor, okay? Light armor, I usually recommend for melee. But as somebody that mainly plays melee, I'm even moving into full heavy. maybe just for the server environment I'm in, although I haven't had PvP in almost 2 weeks, really. Our server's kind of kaput. It's kind of dead a bit, unfortunately. Basically, it became largely about shooting. So I'll explain real quick on armor if you're unfamiliar. Heavy armor, for the most part, is going to always have dart mitigation. I mean, it does. You have light, heavy dart mitigation, and concussion. Okay, that's what you get out of heavy armor. Now, with light armor, you get blade mitigation. That's kind of it. And then light armor can dodge. Heavy armor can't dodge as much, but it has much more armor. So let's look at the uniques now, okay? Now, unfortunately, we've only had the Executor Set, well, let's talk the heavies first. We have one is the Executor Set. I think we've had this 1 week in the deep desert. And at least on our server, we never get it in the Lands Rad. We get Pincushion every week in the Lands Rad. We've also got Pincushion many times in the deep desert. That's a light set. So the Executor Set is pretty much the same as a heavy, but it has higher armor and it has extra concussion mitigation. It's decent. Like, the extra armor's good. The concussion, meh, I don't really care. There's another heavy set called the Bulwark Set. As far as I understand, it doesn't exist. Like, it hasn't been in the game yet. It's been data mined. That would give you increased dart mitigation on top of the standard mitigation, okay? Those would be your heavy armor sets, okay? As far as light armor sets, we have two as well. One is just like the one we just named, the Bulwark, and that's Pincushion. Pincushion is focused on mitigating dart damage, okay? Now, it doesn't have any concussion mitigation like heavy armor. Instead, it has blade. So Pincushion's a really cool set. It gives the special dart mitigation and blade. It's like, wow, this covers everything. Why not use this? Well, it is a really good set. Like, it's not bad at all. Only downside, it's light. Its armor isn't very high. And I'll come back to the armor side of things later. But with light armor sets, you can dodge up to like 7 times or something, whereas with heavy, you might only be dodging like 3 times. I will come back to that as well, but these are really our differences. Lastly, I'll just say our other set is the Forge Set. Overrated. This mitigates fire and poison. It does blade, as all light armors do. What this means is if you're burning or you're poisoned, you will mitigate that dot damage. It doesn't give you a larger buffer, like the poison passive, for example. It doesn't mean like, oh, it takes more poison to poison me or more fire to burn me. No, when those things happen, you'll just take less damage. And for the most part, it's not a big deal because you can just use a heal kit to get rid of those dots when they do happen. I tested the energy mitigation. It was a while ago. It was a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure it just doesn't work. Like, I don't know. You can come back to it. I don't really care because I wouldn't recommend the set anyway, but I don't even think the energy mitigation worked at all. There's not many things that it would work for, right? There's like the plasma pistol, which it's not going to work when it's shooting your shields. And then we have the plasma cannon, which, again, if I'm getting shot by a plasma cannon in a Forge set, like what are we talking about? So let's jump back. There's a couple other things that you really need to know about, okay? People think Idaho's charge is great. It's cool if you want to fly around. It's cool for flying. All right, if you like to fly a long time, this will give you 20% more uptime flying. Cool. That's all that does. This is a light armor set. Its mitigations aren't there. Not great. It's cool if you like to fly longer. You can fly 20% longer. It's like the Suspensor passive in Trooper. 20% more. Anyway, what is good is Power Harness. Power Harness is good. This is worth it. Why? It gives you 50% more max power. So essentially, it kind of doubles up as Executor type thing. It's very much like this, 525 armor. This one's also 525 armor. Difference is, I get extra max power. Combine this with the Planetologist one that goes up to 40 with this 50, and you can get 90 extra power. Pretty nice, especially if you can get a Young Sparky Mark 6, but all in all, you should use the Power Harness regardless of whatever bullshit theory craft. This is a very good item. You should use it, okay? Even if you're going light armor, when I was still light armoring, I actually moved into a Power Harness. And the other thing I moved into, which no matter what you do in the game, and I actually wasn't aware of this, I didn't think it worked, but Circuit Gauntlets, I did confirm, I did test this. This is minus 10% power usage. So what works with this is it actually, it makes your shields stronger, okay? if I get shot by a Disruptor pistol and it does 300 damage, this will reduce that by 30. It'll do 270 instead, okay? That also works in tandem with conservation of energy. This does 9%. I tested both of these. I'm behind the game on that one, guys, okay? But yeah, you can get 19% stronger shields. So it's almost like giving your shields, you know, it's essentially buffering your shields and giving you more shields, essentially, because that adds mitigation on your shields, essentially. The gauntlets and that planetologist skill. That is a technique, though, that will take a slot. But if you do those and you have like a Mark 6 set, add in the power harness, and you have a very large shield, suddenly you're extending that shield much more. So that is one huge takeaway. Run the gauntlets and the power harness. Like, regardless of whatever else you do, I would recommend those two, okay? The other three pieces you can decide. So let's jump back out and look at stuff, okay? And wrap this whole thing up, and you can decide what you want to do. For me, I've just moved into heavy. Executor. I would have Executor here as well, but I just don't have it. If Bulwark exists, I'll get Bulwark in these three spots if they ever change the deep desert loot tables. But apparently they all want us to have sand bikes every week, so that's all we get. Now, I also have the Pincushion here as well. I just tested this and spared us the time of me shooting and healing myself, and I just shot myself with a fully upgraded shell burster shotgun to the chest. So what that looks like is I took 40 damage, okay? If we look at my character stats, for example, like, this is what it says, right? And this is kind of where I've watched the Vosh videos and all that stuff too, okay? I have watched the Human Mentat at work, and he spit out the formulas as well on things. And honestly, I didn't do the math too much, and this video is so goddamn long at this point, I'm not trying to waste any more time. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. At 1701 armor is what I have in this setup I just showed you. In the light set, which is 5 Pincushion, it drops down. I mean, it's almost half. It's pretty wild. But here's the point. My mitigation says 77 with that and 66. Like, it's an 11% mitigation difference, right? But dropping from heavy to light and in Pincushion, and mind you, by the way, I'm running 5-piece Pincushion, including the gauntlets. Like, the Pincushion actually gives higher dart mitigation than this heavy set. Translation is, I'm not even in full, like, if we wanted to do apples to apples, I should have 5-piece Pincushion versus 5-piece Bulwark, and I don't. If I had 5-piece Bulwark, my mitigation would be significantly higher. Not like monstrous, but this number, instead of taking 40 damage, I'd probably take like 36 or something, okay? It'd be closer to that, is all I'm saying. But long and the short of it is, I took 40% more damage in this light armor set from a shotgun to the chest, okay? Most of what I face in my server is damage from just range fire. Like, part of the problem is that Suspensor Blast is too damn good. This skill needs to be nerfed, and I'm not exactly sure how. I don't exactly know what to recommend to devs. They did change this actually on the PTS, which was kind of cool. They basically made it where you're not going to be able to hold this skill anymore. You're not going to be able to do this, which functionally it becomes CC immunity, right? But it still has the problem that it's so good at countering melee. Unless you are like a really good, advanced, experienced player. And I'm not even fully there. And I love meleeing, and I spent most of my time meleeing. And I try to engage people and bait out their Suspensor Blasts. Because as long as their Suspensor Blast is up, not only does it defend against melee, but it sets you up to be killed, right? Like, if you get hit with Suspensor Blast, it's an immediate turnaround. I don't have the pistol on me right now, but you can immediately Suspensor Blast someone, just turn with a Disruptor, and just light them up, right? And just, like, crack a melee player. It's really unfair to melee players. Melee are having a tough time, is the long and short of things. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. So, as long as this skill exists as it does, it makes it hard to, like, just be all in on melee, okay? So, this skill needs to be interruptible or something, but honestly, it might kind of suck if it was interruptible. But this is a topic for a whole, like, another deep dive on bounce that I'm really not trying to get into. All I'm saying is, overall, I think heavy armor is kind of the way to go, okay? And you can always just run Suspensor Blast and get out. It's not only that that's so strong, it's Suspensor Blast in conjunction with Battle Hardened. This is kind of where things are messed up. And it's not just that, it's Shigewire mainly, all right? Shigewire has such a low cooldown with Battle Hardened is that you can constantly just get away from melee. And that's what it is. And a properly played ranged trooper player is kind of the best in slot thing. They're very deadly as long as they can aim, because they can constantly escape and reposition. Indoors, it's a little different, but they're still really good. Like if they can just fly up, they're kind of a pain in the ass. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of a meta bounce thing, and it depends on what your server is. Just use this information as you'd like. I know this isn't like too deep, but light is good. I've used light in 95% of my combat in Dune Awakening, because in the other 5% that I've switched to heavy, I haven't found much combat, but I did just fine, because as I got more experience in the game, I didn't need to dodge as much. Most of the time I PvP'd in Dune, I was over dodging, and I think most players are over dodging. We're panicking, we're not knowing, we just want to catch up sometimes. We're just not thinking through the fight entirely. And it's just because a lot of people don't get to practice the game much, that's all. So all in all, I recommend using heavy armor. That's my TLDR. And when you use heavy armor, use power harness and use circuit gauntlets, and then just fill in for the other 3 slots. It doesn't really matter. This last thing I just showed with Litany, if you're unaware of Litany, it is this skill, Litany Against Fear, which can triple your armor, okay? And I just showcase that to just show you that in my heavy set, I got to 5100 armor with Litany up. And essentially, I took 16 damage instead of 40, just with Litany up. And my mitigation was 91%. So it's a real big jump. All in all, the TLDR of this is like, armor is super important. There is armor, and if you want to know more about it, go watch Vosh's video, How Damage Works or something, I think it's called. And you can see the actual like armor formulas. It's kind of like one of the more standard ones where you're going to hit 50% mitigation at 500 armor, and after that your curve is going to, slow down. But it's still really important, is what I'm trying to say. There's no point where the armor just stops like not being really important. It's kind of fucked up. So you have armor, which is important, and then you have like dart mitigation, that's super important. If you get more advanced in this game and you take care of yourself and you just don't make stupid mistakes, you don't really need blade mitigation, okay? You just don't need blade mitigation, all right? Unless you're getting outplayed by somebody that's like really good. That doesn't really exist right now, especially not if you have Suspensor Blast and Shigewire on bar with Battle Hardened, which a lot of players and more players, at least in our server environment, did have. So make your choices. I suggest heavy. If not, what I would suggest is throw these heavy 2 slots in, right? And then go light in the others if you want to light. And now you have a hybrid mix, and you still get some dodging in, but you get the best of both worlds where your shields are stronger. You at least need circuit gauntlets, all right, dudes? Buff your shields up, all right? I don't know if that's intended, but that shit's strong. That ain't right. That's one-dimensional. Like, everybody has to run that, okay? And then there's a Mark V version of this, if you're unaware. It is called Station Gauntlets, I think, right? Yeah, Station Gauntlets, all right? Just get a cheap version of these. They do the same goddamn thing. They're going to buff your shields, all right? 10% mitigation. So, that's kind of it, I think. That's kind of covers armor. It covers weapons. This is the long video. There's so much. If you made it this far and watched all of it, well, you're going to know a lot about it. And hopefully, God willing, there's some goddamn devs that are in here and may fix a lot of these things, because there's a lot of quirky stuff in the game. And I will make some builds based off of this stuff, just general like meta play styles. For those of you that are still engaged in playing Dune or just popping in and checking it out, they're applicable for PvP and PvE. It just kind of helps people understand the game, and if they want to get involved in PvP, because I think there's a lot of people that don't even know where to start in getting involved in PvP. But this video will explain a lot. I think when I slap together some builds and just kind of walk you through how to engage a fight maybe a little, that could help you too. But consider this like just a large video reference of how different weapons perform and how different skills work in tandem with them. And hopefully this was useful to you. Make sure you like, you subscribe, leave comments. If there's things that are wrong, and there very well could be, I think this video is probably going to be like an hour long. There's probably some things in here that I might have misspoke. Maybe I was wrong on, maybe they've been changed, and there will be a PTS coming, and eventually some of this stuff will get fixed, hopefully, you know, depending when you're watching it. But for the most part, a lot of this video, like 80-90% of it, is just how things work and probably won't be changed until maybe they have some real bounce changes, which honestly I don't expect till like maybe winter, after New Year type stuff, honestly, because I think they got to work on a lot of other stuff as far as endgame goes, redesigning that, and DLC stuff. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching. I will catch you on the next one. Y'all take it easy.